Okay, so this, once again, would just talk about how we go from our measured values to our derived values and follow that uncertainty through. So we want to propagate uncertainty because a numerical result without an estimation of its uncertainty is useless. You know, if I just give you a number and I don't tell you how certain I am about it in science, that's not very helpful. You know, I don't know if it's just a guess or actually a really good value. You know, think about what, if I say the bond length of HCl is 1.27 and I don't give you an uncertainty, but what if I say it's 1.278532 plus or minus 0.0006, you know, then you know, oh wow, they've got more details, more specific information, and an estimate of the uncertainty. And so the directly measured quantities are easy. Like if you go to the balance and you pull up the side of the balance or look at the literature on that balance, it'll tell you what the repeatability of that balance is. And typically they're, for a 4-place balance, 0.0002 or 0.2 milligrams. Now, but that's a single measurement. And almost every measurement takes 2 measurements, right? You have the tearing of the balance, which is plus or minus this, and then you have the actual mass measurement, which is plus or minus this. So what's the actual uncertainty of the balance? It's not this, it's 2 measurements. So how do we even get from a single balance measurement what our uncertainty is? We have to actually propagate the uncertainty for this because you're actually taking 2 measurements. And so this is the key here for all of the different operations. We have different, different types of mathematical situations. And these equations on the right, these uncertainty operations, actually come from taking the partial derivatives. How the result of y changes if we take the derivative of this equation with respect to a and b and c. And these are the coefficients that come out of those. Same with multiplication and division. How does the value y change with change in a, b, and c? And then for exponents is just a special case of products, okay, where it's the same value multiplied multiple times. And so you end up with just an integer number of those different, whatever that power is. It doesn't have to be an integer. Whatever that power is times these relative standard deviations. So does everybody understand the terminology here, though? So we have the equation here, and these are the uncertainties, so the standard deviations. If it's a population, we use sigma. We could also use S. So a lot of times I use S. SC, SB, and SA. And then this piece here, that's the RSD, the relative standard deviation of A. And this is the relative standard deviation of B. Does everybody recognize that? You have the uncertainty on top of the value. That ratio is the relative standard deviation. Logs and antilogs are given just as an example. Like if you're working with pH or concentrations, then you can use the logs and antilogs. But mostly we're dealing with sums and ratios, products, exponents. So these are the ones that are easily memorized, right? If it's addition and subtraction, this is called the variance. The standard deviation squared. And so the variance in y is just the sum of the variances of all the things that are added and subtracted. The RSD squared of y is equal to the sum of the RSD squareds of all of the things that are multiplied and divided. And then if you have an exponent, whether it's a square root, x would be 1/2. If it's a square, x would be 2, and so on. It's just multiply that RSD times whatever power you have. And that was actually the case for our situation when we had r is equal to the square root of some constants divided by b. Then all we needed to do was to say that the RSD for r is equal to 1/2 the RSD for our BE value. So if our RSD is 5% in our B value, then our bond length RSD is only going to be 2.5%. So let's look at an example here. This is, you've done this. I mean, maybe even as a TA, you're doing this in the lab where the students weigh out a cube of metal or what have you. They got the dimensions and they get the volume and they weigh the mass. Here you can do it by displacement of water. You get a grad cylinder, you measure the volume mark, you put a piece of metal in there, you see the volume change, and you take the difference and you got the volume and then you got the mass. You can calculate the density. So it's pretty easy to calculate the density. I put this in my calculator. It weighed 2.5 grams. It took up 1.3 or 0.13 mils, and here's my density. And my calculator keeps all of these digits, and I'm going to keep those for now because the uncertainty is going to tell me where to round. Okay. And then the second question, can I tell if it's gold or tungsten? Look at gold and tungsten. Gold is 19.28 and tungsten is 19.25. And it says 19.25, 384. So it looks like it's tungsten, right? And if I was just doing this calculation, I would say it's tungsten, clearly. Okay. But what's my uncertainty? See, I have uncertainty in my mass measurement here, and I have uncertainty in my volume measurement. Now, which one is more uncertain? Looks like the mass is more uncertain. Yeah. Then we're looking at absolute uncertainty there. But remember, for multiplication and division, we need to think about relative standard deviation, or RSD. So we need to divide this. We need to take this divided by that, and we need to take the 130 and divide by that. So let's calculate our uncertainty for this. So here's our uncertainty calculation. Okay. And so we have our density value. Remember our RSD, let's see, RSD for density is equal to sigma density over density. Okay. And so we just took this density, and moved it over here. And we took the square root of everything. So it's still that same equation of RSD for density squared is equal to RSD for volume squared plus RSD for mass squared. So do you see what we've done? We've taken the square root of both sides and we've moved this density over to this side here. So that's why the density is right here. So here's our density times the square root of the RSDs. So then the RSD for mass is again 0.2 over 2.5, and the RSD for volume is 0.05 over 0.13. Now, this is a great spot to pause and look at our relative sizes of these fractions, because this is where you're going to see which one's dominating your uncertainty. And it's real simple to just look at this and say, well, we'll just cut it off right here and say I've got 2 and 25. That's my uncertainty. 2 divided by 25. And that's one fraction. Here's 5 divided by 13. This is a bigger number. So this is telling me that my volume is the thing that's messing me up, not the mass. My volume is large. It's 5 and 13, whereas my mass is 2 and 25. It's a smaller number. Okay. And so then we go ahead and calculate this. We get 7.6 grams per mil. So that's my uncertainty. My standard deviation is 7.6. So it's huge. So if I keep those 2 digits of uncertainty, my answer is 19.3 plus or minus 7.6. So now we know we can't tell the difference between tungsten or gold. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So let's go ahead and put this on a bell curve, even though we really don't know that it's a bell curve, but we'll just pretend it's a bell curve. So our density measurement, so our volume had a wider, width than our mass measurement, and then those figure into our total. So here's our 19.25 or whatever was right here. and we were trying to determine between gold or tungsten. But our plus or minus 7.6 would capture tantalum, tungsten, gold, rhenium, platinum, osmium, iridium. That's my 50% confidence interval. Okay. 95% confidence gets all of these. So this is our 95% confidence intervals right here. And that's how many if we want to say, all right, I want to be 95% confident, this result could come from any one of these metals. Okay. It would be rare for whatever this metal here to give us that value, but it could, with our single measurement, and our widths here. But we can say with 95% confidence, it's not magnesium. Okay? And so if someone said, I think this is magnesium, and gives it to you, and you weigh it, and you put it in the scred cylinder, and it comes out at 19.25 grams per mil, you're like, I'm 95% sure that's not magnesium, because its density is like 2.5 or something really small. So it's really not very dense. Okay. So anyway, but you might say, yeah, but the calculator showed 19.25, and that was closest to tungsten or whatever. Y'all ever hear this? Yeah, but this, yeah, but that. It's yeah, but my kids would say, I was like, he's like, can I have a cookie? No, it's close to dinner. And he says, yeah, but I'm hungry. Yeah, but I'll eat all my food. Yeah, but I'll eat this. So that's what I mean by no yeah buts. If you don't know what the uncertainty is, you don't know how certain you are about your value. So, and let's look at a calibration example. This may be useful for your research. Okay. So a lot of times we have an external standard calibration curve. We put in our standards, and we calculate our uncertainties. According to a linear regression, maybe we get our y values in our equation here. So we have mx and b. Okay. And so if we measure our unknowns, we get 3 y values. And we can calculate the standard deviation of our y's, but how does that translate to our uncertainty and our x's? Right? We can get a concentration, but what's our uncertainty and concentration? We have to propagate the uncertainty through the whole equation. We can't just take the y value's uncertainty and apply it to the x. Okay? Because of that plus b. That plus b kind of messes things up. And so this trend line, again, is not useful because it doesn't have the uncertainty value. So you've got to do an ANOVA. So now we understand there's an uncertainty associated with the intercept, that b value, and the m value. So let's go ahead and propagate that uncertainty through. So we've got given a y value plus or minus sy, how do we find sx? So here's our data from the line. It was 416.6 was our slope, plus or minus 5.9. Our intercept was 1214 plus or minus 120. And we run 3 samples. So we run these 3 samples. We get an average here. So that's our y and our sy. So our average and standard deviation. What's going to be our concentration, and what's going to be our uncertainty and concentration. So we can solve for x very easily, right? Y minus b divided by m. Okay, so that's not a problem. And so we'll go ahead and do that. Y minus b divided by m, 129.9 parts per billion. Piece of cake, okay? I know my concentration. But what are my uncertainties? How plus or minus, right? And so we've got to figure out what that is. So this is a subtraction on top and a division. So we've got a combination of our 2 cases. So the variance is applied to the y minus b, and the RSDs are applied to the division. So we've got to do this in 2 parts. The first part is just to solve for the numerator. I don't have a letter for it, so I'm just calling it numerator. Numerator is y minus b. So we calculate that, and we get our value. Now we can calculate the uncertainty in the numerator using that sum of variances. So we have sy squared plus sb squared. We add those together, take the square root, and that's the s for our numerator. So now we know on the uncertainty in our numerator, and that's 1,532 counts. Now we can do the division piece, and I've color-coded this, so this is in green. Y'all are writing, so I better go slower. Okay. Tell me when you're done. But does everybody understand why we have to break it into two pieces? Because we have two cases, a sum and a difference, and a division and division and multiplication. Okay. So now let's do the division piece. We have 54.119 counts divided by m. Okay, we've already calculated x. And so this is the relative standard deviation for the numerator, S numerator over numerator. Here's S numerator here. This piece goes there. The value of the numerator goes here. And then this is Sm over m, which we get from the ANOVA analysis. We had Sm from the ANOVA and m from the ANOVA. Okay. Square those relative standard deviations, add them together, take the square root, and multiply by x, and we get our uncertainty in x. And so we end up with 4.1 parts per billion. It's pretty good. 129.9 plus or minus 4.1. So that would be our reported value if we were just doing plus or minus 1 sigma. If we were doing the 95% confidence interval, we would multiply that 4.1 by 1.96, and then we would get our 95% confidence intervals. Okay. So I think this is a useful example for you to use in your research whenever you're doing calibrations and you're calculating from some y values. You make your runs and you convert those to x values, concentration or whatever kind of abundance measurements you're using. Go ahead, you need to propagate those uncertainties, and this is how you do it. Okay, I don't have a Kahoot for it, but that's really all I wanted to cover on the propagation of uncertainty lecture.
Is this the same lecture from forensics?
Yes.
It is, yeah.